All right, we're coaching Terry in his Porsche 991 GT3 with Full Throttle Driving Academy. This is going to be a pretty comprehensive tutorial. This driving session was multiple laps. I've selected going into lap 6, which was one of the fastest, but more importantly, a clean lap. Now, when we're doing the coaching, this is a time trial scenario, not a wheel-to-wheel race. So we're looking for the fastest lap time. And in order to set up the fastest lap time, we need an ultra clean exit on the final corner, the penultimate corner before the main straightaway and the start finish line. That means that if you have a bad lap, give that lap away and get prepared to get the next lap hot. In this case, he's coming off a 240 lap. He's on pace for a quicker lap than the previous, I believe. But nonetheless, if you have a slow lap and you make a mistake, a really big mistake or multiple mistakes, give it up and prepare for the lap after that so you can really emphasize the exit of the final corner. So in order to prepare for the final corner, this might sound fairly obvious, but we want to be all the way over on the right-hand side, parallel, so that we can get a late apex, an exaggerated super late apex, because we're trying to maximize our straightaway speed all the way down the ensuing straightaway. That's our only priority if we're going for our maximum time in a time trial setting. So let's see how we do when we get around this corner. We want to make sure we get back all the way to the right. All right, so see here, we know right now we're sacrificing the exit of the final corner because we're not all the way over. We're not all the way over here. We're giving up about 7 to 8 feet, which means that the exit speed here is going to be unnecessarily slower than we want it to be. So let's see if you can recover and at least hit a late apex about 2/3 of the way through this corner. And you really want to start gradually accelerating on the exit as you unwind your hands. So key thing here, we're going to be turning into the corner. It's a quick corner. As we start applying throttle, we are simultaneously unwinding our hands, always. As you apply gas, you straighten your hands. So we're not going to do a point and shoot deal where we turn into the corner, wait until we get along the next straightaway, and then mash the throttle like an on-off switch. As we get to the apex, we're turned. We want to start unwinding the steering wheel and apply throttle gradually until we can get to full throttle as soon as humanly possible. Let's see the engine sounds and see how quickly you start applying throttle and if you do it gradually or if you do it like an on-off switch. Okay. So if you back that up a little bit, where do we get to full throttle? I think we can get to full throttle. We're lifting right there. We could hit that apex a couple more feet to the left. We also could rotate the car a little more earlier on the turn in. I think you're turning a little too shallow and it's causing you to pinch the exit. We want to get more turning done on the beginning of the corner, especially a sharp corner. Get all of that rotation done so that we can be pointed more, oriented down the straightaway so we can get to throttle even sooner. In this case, we're having to wait a little bit longer before you can get to the gas. And therefore, you know, at this point you would want to be probably 30 to 40% throttle right here. And by the time you get to the exit, you definitely should be at 100% throttle. And we want you all the way out here. We don't want you driving out there. That's fundamental. We want you forced out there because you got to throttle soon enough. If you're not forced all the way out to the very edge, the last inch of that track, that means you didn't get to throttle soon enough, period. That is number one fundamental rule of tracking out. So let's see how we do. Good, we're getting almost all the way out there. we could go 2 or 3 more feet. You can get all the way on the red and white very comfortably and safely. You can also go all the way on the blue. Every time I've driven that, I go all the way on the blue, almost 2 wheels in the dirt, which gives you 6 more feet from where you are to, get out, which means you can get to throttle approximately a half a second earlier, and you'll carry that speed all the way down the straightaway. So that's just absolutely critical. That's one of the main things we want to work on here is commitment to full throttle earlier on our exits. All right, so let's get down this front straight. We want to gradually work our way to the left and get all the way out to the left. We don't want to leave any track on the left. So again, you're almost all the way out there. Not quite. We really want you more along the white stripe with your left tires. You have about, I know it sounds small, but 12 inches maybe can mean the difference between maybe almost 1/10 of a second, because you'll be decreasing the radius of the corner, make it much easier to make the turn more gradual on turn 1, which is a very high speed right-hand sweeper. But there's good positioning. And what we want to make sure we do now next is how much throttle commitment do we have down the straightaway. We're going 99. We want you to move your pedal immediately from your gas to the brake, gas to brake. It's this fast, and it's boom. The initial brake application is violent. You want to be progressive when you apply the brake pedal, but it's quick, it's hard. Your car has great brakes, great ABS, big wide tires. We want the stopping to be violent. You're going to be pulling more G's and braking than any other discipline. I don't want any gap between releasing the throttle pedal and hitting the brake. I want you to work on foot speed. How fast can you move that foot off the gas pedal? Immediately lift off the gas. I don't want any gradual lifting off the gas. I want off, boom, to brakes. That will give you 1/10 of a second per corner right there. So I think we're braking a little gentle. We're only going 65. I know for a fact this car can carry at least 70 miles per hour on entry into this corner. Again, if we can pick up 1 or 2, 3 miles per hour on the entry to turn 1, that's going to translate into probably 2/10 of a second on this corner. Multiply that out on all these corners, and you're going to pick up probably 2 seconds just by rolling a little bit more speed into these high speed corners. But this is a good approach. I like the angle. We're going to aim for approximately 2/3 of the way through the corner to hit the apex. And again, how fast do you get to throttle, and how gradually do you go to throttle while you're unwinding your hands? Throttle as you unwind your hands simultaneously. It's a dance. It's like an orchestra. All right. Here we go through 1. Now, what do you notice here? You're approaching the apex. It looks good. You're going to get close to the candy stripes, which I call them, the red and white candy canes. Good. You got your wheels just right on the edge of those. Can't ask for more than that. You could experiment with getting 6 inches more to the right and see if that unsettles your car. It's good practice, because sometimes you might be pushed over there, especially if you're overtaking a slower car. So on your out lap, maybe experiment by running over these curbs and seeing what it does to your car. But this looks like a really good corner. 73, I think we should try for 75. See how that feels. And more importantly than how fast do we carry speed down to the apex, how fast are we going to smoothly and progressively get to throttle so that we are forced, absolutely forced, to go all the way to the exit on the track out. We want our wheels hitting that curb, not because we want to, but because we have to. And that's something you just got to get comfortable with, creeping up 1 or 2 miles per hour on the exit of all these high speed corners, because that's really the magic. Let's go for it here. Good. So I think we can get to throttle a little sooner. Yeah, see, we're not forced out to the left. You've got about at least 5 feet more on the left. You're giving up probably 2/10 of a second, but you're going to carry the slower exit speed of 89 all the way down this short straight. I guarantee you, if you had gone to throttle just a half second earlier, you would be pushed out to the left. You'd be going 94 miles per hour right now. And you'll carry that all the way down the straightaway. Again, that's probably 0.2 of a second. So very simple for you to just start working on that with a little bit more earlier throttle, a little more commitment, a little more comfort level, getting all the way out to those candy stripes on the left. All right, let's watch this first and then we'll back it up. This is a tricky corner, it's off camber. Okay, now I'll back that up. So we're approaching this really gnarly right-hand corner. It's kind of a tough corner. Here's the thing to notice. It's got negative camber. The slope is against you, against your favor. The way that I approach this corner is really thinking about how do you flatten the track? How do you stay in the flat part of the track, which is on the right-hand side? So it's really critical to start all the way to the left. You're cheating in a little bit here. Your angle of your car is kind of this. We want you more out here, kind of like that. A little bit more parallel. We want you a little bit more to the left to start the corner. And we really want to get our turning done early in this corner so that we don't have to be in this mess out here in the off camber stuff. So what we want to do is target hitting this apex about 2/3 of the way through the corner. You're not going to run over this curb because it can really upset the car, but you want to get like right there, and kiss the curb. I say, kiss the curb. So let's see how close you get. I think you missed this one by 3 or 4 feet, which is going to compromise your entry speed and your exit speed because you're making the corner longer than it needs to be. So this is another corner that's really tricky, but really important. So see, we got close. We're 2 to 3 feet, but if we got more to the right, we can get to throttle sooner and get a short burst of full throttle. And on the exit of this, a lot of people think they can't track out all the way because it's such a short straightaway and you have to hustle back over to the right. But you can track all the way out to here and almost kiss that curb. You have plenty of time to move back over to the right and give a good burst of full throttle diagonally. And then you want to straighten the car gently in a straight line and get your braking parallel to that right-hand side in full threshold braking. We want absolute maximum braking. It's a short braking zone because we're not going that fast, but we want to make sure we're parallel. We get that braking done. And then the next corner coming up after this is challenging and unique. We'll go through it because there's a big elevation change and a compression, which gives you more traction as you go through it. All right, we'll watch this and then back it up. Yeah, so we didn't track out. I think we're preparing to get back over to the right. So we'll back this up as we go. Yeah, so we got back to the right perfectly, but we gave up. We're going to give up too much. We're going 59. If you get to full throttle right there and track all the way out to the left, we'll pick up another 4 or 5 miles per hour, and then you can just gradually make your way back over to the right in one big fluid motion, a big arc. And again, use the whole track. You paid for it. So we're about 10 feet too far to the right here, okay? Important. We got to nail the line every single time and be consistent. Now, good job getting back over to the right. You got over really fast. You could have waited a little longer and done it more gradually, but you are in a perfect position. You're right along the right rail here. You're going to brake in a straight line. Let's watch the corner and then we'll back it up and analyze it. Okay, now you've seen the corner. Let's go through what we want to do here. What we want to do is you're already turning in. If I wish I could see your hands, you're kind of creeping into the corner. I call it cheating the corner because you're oriented kind of at this angle. You're kind of inching your way into the corner. And we definitely do not want to do that. We still want to be out here, parallel at this point, still releasing the brake pedal, gradually coming off the brake as we wind in a lot of steering input. Okay, this corner is one of those tight corners. You want to get a lot of turning done in the first part of the corner well before you get to apex, because you have to orient the car, which is just as important as getting to the apex. So, everyone talks about get to the apex. That's 50% of it. The other 50% is get to the apex, but get your car oriented in the correct direction so you can get to throttle. And in this case, I think we're going to miss the apex by a couple feet. But more important than that, we're not going to quite get enough rotation in the first part of the corner to take advantage of something that's really important here, which is we have this killer compression right here. It goes downhill and then it goes uphill. As soon as you hit the uphill slope, you'll feel the car compress and you'll get a lot of traction, which means early to throttle on the exit of this corner. You can get to throttle sooner than you think. You can carry a lot more speed on the exit, especially if you get the rotation done earlier, and make sure you get all the way to the apex to take full advantage of this compression. So right there, you're pretty good, but we'd rather have you you're aimed here, right? You can't possibly get to full throttle. You've got to wait until you're aimed here. What we want to do then is get more turning done earlier, sharper turning early as you release the brake on the entry to this corner, and get all the turning done. And then you're approaching this nice compression in much more of a line like this, where you can get to throttle really soon and have a super fast exit. So we really need to focus on orientation of car in addition to hitting apex. We've never really talked about that too much before, but that's something that we'll be spending a lot more time on as we go through it. All right. So now we're going to have to wait, obviously, because we're not pointed quite in the right direction. So you can't get to throttle soon enough. Now that's good. You going up the hill, you realize, oh, I've got more traction. Let's start getting on the gas here. So good. If you had done it a little more rotation, you would probably be instead of aimed this way at this point. That's kind of where your car is headed now, right? You can't get to full throttle. You'll fly off the track into the dirt. You'd want to be more aimed this way as you're unwinding your hands and getting to full throttle. You can track all the way out to the red candy stripe here. So you're noticing some common themes here. And a lot of it has to do with the way you turn the steering wheel on the entry to the corner. And a good entry rather, sets up a good exit. A good exit is really a consequence of a good entry. So let's watch your exit. And that's great. So you tracked out, you recovered really well. And now we're going to hustle down to this really hard double apex right-hand corner, which leads onto a nice medium length straightaway. We'll watch it first. All right, so I believe you've spun out here once before, so you might be a bit tentative, which is completely understandable. I think the critical part of this is we're going to listen to the engine. Watch this one more time. I want to concentrate on two things. Number one, how committed are you to full throttle as you approach this corner? In other words, are you jumping off the throttle pedal and getting to brakes, or are you gradually lifting the throttle and sort of coasting and being a little bit more methodical? We really want to focus on full throttle commitment, immediate transition to the brake pedal, attack the course. You have to get aggressive. You have to think, I am going to break this brake pedal off. And it doesn't mean you're going to do it with force. You just have to go so quick to get your foot off that gas onto the brake, because you don't want to waste any time in that transition. And then this braking zone is going to be pretty sharp, but the key is this corner again is a nasty off camber, and it's a double apex. So we sort of give up the first part of it, and we want to, which is good approach right there. Now, same thing's going to happen here as happened on the previous corner. We want to get more rotation in the first part of the corner. We want you aimed more like this. You're aimed like this. So we want to trail brake, and we'll start reducing the brakes as we turn in. We'll put a little bit more weight on the front tires. This car has relatively skinny tires relative to its back tires, so it does tend to push a little bit on corner entry. To compensate for that, we get a little bit more brake pressure on the front. As we release the brakes, we turn the wheel, and we really want to get the wheel turned relatively sharp so we can get this car rotated so we can hit the second of the two apexes. Ignore the first one, which you're doing perfectly. So we'll come around here. We're looking in a good spot here. We just need a tiny bit more rotation. It can be a lift of the throttle to help it rotate. It can be a little more trail braking, but we want to get this car turned a little bit more so that we get down to the apex. We want to hit it about here. And then you can see again, it's an off camber exit. You're going to lose traction as you go through the corner. We have to know that. That's why people spin out here a lot. If they hit the curb, especially, it can upset the car, and then you jump into this really off camber negative slope and you lose traction and you just go woo, loop-de-doo, and you do a nice little ride. So we want to make sure we apply throttle very smoothly and progressively. It's not an on-off switch, but you want to commit to throttle. That settles the rear end. Give it 30-40% throttle at the apex, and then start gradually increasing that throttle to 100% on the exit. That'll keep the car happy, nice and settled and balanced. We never want to upset the car and make it angry with really abrupt inputs. Everything has to be smooth and progressive. All right. So we missed it 3 or 4 feet. No worries. We're going to start getting exit to full throttle. Good. So you're using the throttle pedal. I can hear the engine a little bit like a light switch, and we'd rather have it be a potentiometer. You're twisting a knob. You're gradually turning a corkscrew. Think about your hands are, unwinding as you apply the throttle. It's one fluid motion. The throttle is going, It's not, It's gradual and consistent, progressive. And that'll help you keep the car settled. You won't create an artificial limit of traction by transferring too much weight too quickly to the rear of the car. You'll have all 4 tires working for you. And you did track out well. You're driving out there, though, I can tell, because we could be going 78 miles per hour right here. So again, creep up on it. Again, a good entry creates a good exit. And if you get the car twisted and oriented a little bit more on the entry, you'll have more confidence coming out of the corner, because your steering wheel will automatically be a little bit straighter, and you'll be able to get to the throttle a little bit sooner without so much steering input, and you'll naturally track out all the way to the exit. So on this, we'll watch it at full speed and then back that up. Tightest corner on the course, slowest corner on the course. All right. All right. So on this, we want to make sure we do not cheat the entry to this corner. I can already tell the tendency for you is to kind of creep in to the entry. You've already started turning the steering wheel. I want you dead straight parallel to the red candy stripe until the very last minute. And you're going to go super late. You're not going to start turning in until about here. And you're going to hit the apex 2/3 of the way through the corner, which means you have to turn in very late, very sharp, very slow, but you want to get all the rotation done well before you get to that apex. So it's a sharper corner than you're doing. You're turning in gradually. It's a later apex, turn in later, and wait longer before you start turning in. So that means you can carry your straightaway speed longer on full throttle. You can brake a little bit later, brake as hard as you can, and then you trail brake a lot as you start turning your hands in. Keep a little bit of weight on the nose. And as soon as you get the car rotated, if you do enough rotation, you can really commit to full throttle on the exit quickly. Yeah, so you're hitting the apex. Where are we? We're going to hit the apex about here, right? We don't want to hit the apex till here. Okay, so it's 8 or 9 feet difference. You want to, just as a rule of thumb, just think about 2/3 of the way through, that's a good aiming point to start with. And then you can dial it, backwards or forwards a little bit from there. But you're hitting it a little bit more, 50% of the way through the corner, which means you're going to pinch the exit. It's going to reduce your ability to get to full throttle. So again, be more patient and get a later apex, rotate more on the entry, and it's going to pay dividends on the exit. It also saves your tires because you're not scrubbing the fronts as much. And it just generally makes it for a safer drive as well because you're not going to be sliding around so much. So you had to slow down a lot to 31. You can carry, if you rotate later, you can carry more like 40 miles per hour minimum speed through the corner. But whenever you go early on an apex, it pinches you off and you have to slow down too much. So let's focus on the later stuff, and maybe you can get around 38, 40 miles per hour as your min speed on this exit. And you'd also be pointed more down the straightaway if you exited later and rotated more on the initial part of the corner. So there again, I heard the throttle go from like 0 to 100 pretty quickly. I'd rather hear you go. It's not boom. Okay. Smoother application of that throttle pedal as you straighten your hands. Now you can inch your way back over. There's no need to kind of get all the way back over so quickly. Anytime you're turning the steering wheel, you're slowing the car down. So let the car run free. Let it stay to the left a little bit longer under full throttle and just gradually work your way back all the way to the right. And of course, on this corner, it's an uphill corner. You're going to pick up traction on the entry to the corner. You want to start the corner parallel to the red candy stripes. You have plenty of time to work your way over here though. And that's good. You got there, you got parallel, perfect. Now, we are going to need to get a little bit more aggressive. The line looks good. I really think you could go up the hill about where you are right now and use some light braking about right where you are. You started braking really early. Granted, this is a pretty scary corner because it's blind and you go over this hill and you can fly out of control. But work on kind of turning a little bit to the left before you brake. Then give the brakes a nice light brush until you set your speed of the car. It's not super hard braking. It's kind of like a light to medium braking. It's a little bit of a long, light braking. It keeps the car more flat. And keep in mind, you're going up a hill, so you're going to pick up traction. So the car's going to slow down really well. So you don't need much brakes. But we want to make sure we get the car rotated early before we crest the hill so we can straighten the hands as we come over the top of the hill. That's the key. You want your hands to be unwinding and straight as you go over the crest of the hill. And then you can apply a burst of full throttle as you come over the top. So let's hear if you do the burst of full throttle or how we use our throttle over the top of this hill. Yeah, so of course, we want 2 more feet to the left. We want a little more rotation. Again, this theme is really going to help you a ton. You're aimed here. Start out a little more to the right. Wait longer before you turn in and get the car aimed here. It's, 15, 20 degrees more rotation on the first part of the corner will set up everything for you on the exit of the corner. Now, as we come over the hill, from right this point, you should be thinking, I can go to full throttle right now. This is a straightaway. You could be at 80% throttle right now and go to full throttle for like another 50 or 60 feet. And then you can brake as you come down the hill to set up this right-hander. Let's listen to the throttle and see how it sounds. See, I hear a lot of coasting. And there was no throttle input at all on the downhill slope. And you're also, this corner is interesting because you don't really have to get out to the left like you are. You can kind of hug the rail on the right side because you really want to give that burst of full throttle as you come over the hill. See, right here, you want full throttle. And instead of 76, you're going to be going like 90 as you get to the bottom of the hill. And that's key. Like if you get to like right here and you're going 90, Then you can do light braking instead of just coasting at 74 or 75, whatever you're going to end up at. So anytime you can give a good long burst of full throttle, do it. You have brakes. So use the brakes, use the throttle. We don't want to be like just lollygagging it, coasting down this hill at 75 miles per hour. We want to get up to like 85, 90, use the brakes to turn into the right, and then you can ride the rail around there. So I can just see you coasting and 75, 76. And yeah, it's a tricky corner for sure, but you can carry a lot more speed through here. This is really key because this will save you a half a second if you pick it up to 80, 82 through this whole section maybe. Yeah, and again, you got to hit that apex. Okay, now I heard the car just downshifted because you went from like 0 throttle to like probably 80% throttle just so suddenly. And again, more progressive with the gas. Go from 30 to 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100 smoothly, and then the car will be much more well-behaved. It might still downshift on you, but the reality is, here's the thing. Your PDK transmission, if you hustle the car down here and you hit the brakes, the car will automatically downshift and put you in the proper gear. Because you're coasting, it doesn't know what gear to be in because it doesn't know what you're about to do. So be more aggressive with throttle, be more aggressive with brakes. The car will downshift and get shifting done earlier so that when you start exiting, it doesn't have to downshift as you apply the throttle and you'll be in the proper gear. See that? It just downshifted and now it just went up like 3,000 RPM. And we don't want that to happen. So now, again, you can track all the way out. All the way out. Get over here. There's no reason to stay to the right here. You have a short straight, you have a fast exit, you're at full throttle. We want to maximize our exit speed and carry the speed all the way down the straight because the next corner, it doesn't really matter too much how you enter it. It's a long 180-degree sweeper. And, if you enter it on the outside, the inside, the middle, you're going to do some braking. I've seen people carry a lot of speed driving the inside line. I've seen a lot of people carry a lot of speed on the middle line. If you get too far out to the outside, there are marbles and it gets very slippery. But you really want to more prioritize the exit of the corner you're on and the full throttle application on this short straightaway, which leads onto a very fast left-hand sweeper. It's a 70, 75, 80 mile per hour corner. All right. Full throttle. Let's watch the whole thing. Okay. On the entry to this, no coasting, no gradual lift of the throttle. You go full throttle all the way until you think you're going to fly off the track, and then you apply medium brakes. We do not want to be going 89 through there. We want to go 95 to where you are right now and then brake. So this is at least a half a second where you can gain just by committing more to throttle longer, getting to brakes later, and then gradually releasing that brake pedal to carry speed. Now, if you're not comfortable going more than like 76 through this corner, that's fine because you still are going to make up a half a second preceding this corner by staying on full throttle longer and carrying more speed on the entry. So this corner is just, steady state. Listen to the tires. I want to hear some squealing on those Michelin Cup 2s. They tell you a lot of information auditorily. So let's listen for it. And I don't hear them squealing, just a little bit, but I know what they sound like. I want them to sound like a stuck pig. You're going around this corner, you're 73. I want you at 76, 77, okay? The tires can handle it, trust me. And they will be squealing, but that's fine. You want them to be loud. And when you get on a different tire like a Hoosier, they're not as communicative, but they're wider and stickier. So your speeds will pick up probably 4 or 5 miles per hour, no problem, when you put on the wide, sticky tires. But for now, these Michelins are awesome because they tell you everything you need to know by squealing. Now, it's a good line. And, some people do a little later outside to the right and then kind of do a late apex on this corner. You're hugging the inside line a little bit, doing a little bit of an early apex. The key is, to maximize your exit speed on this corner and track all the way out to the right. So that's pretty good. You technically, though, didn't get to throttle soon enough, because at this point you should already be on the candy stripe. You should have been pushed out another 5 feet, meaning you'd be going 95 instead of 91. So same thing as before, get a little more rotation done, get a little bit of a later apex, a little bit more aggressive and progressive with your throttle, and you'll be forced to track out all the way to the right. All right, so now we're obviously full throttle coming up onto a left. All right, we'll back it up. Listen for the engine. Yeah, so you're doing the gradual release of the throttle, gradual release, input of the brake. I want off the throttle brake, off the throttle brake. Focus on that. Go as fast as you can, okay? Carry more speed, carry more full throttle. Brake a little bit later, brake a little bit harder. Carry more speed on the entry. We're going to go into this corner in the 60s. This is a 70 to 75 mile per hour minimum speed corner. Your car will definitely handle that. So you're slowing down an awful lot here. Your line is good. Yeah, it's good. That's a nice late apex. You're kind of aiming for the cone. You can see it in the distance there, the cone. And you can definitely run over this red candy stripe a little bit, which you get right on it. That's great. You're just not going as fast as you can. You can start feeding in throttle now. More throttle, more, okay? You'd be going 80 right here, 81, 82. And then the car will be forced out to the right and track all the way out. Yeah, so you're driving out there. We would be pushed out a little bit earlier all the way to the candy stripe if we had just gotten to a little bit more throttle a little bit sooner. But now we're going to go full throttle to the hardest corner on the course. You're probably already noticing what I'm going to say. That looks fun. That looks really fun. All right. Let's get you to a point where we're no longer reacting to corners. We need to be predicting corners. You know what's coming up. You know that it's going to be a nasty downhill right, off camber. It's slow, it's hard, and it's blind. That doesn't mean we're not going to stay at full throttle on this straightaway. And it still means we're going to stay on full throttle until we're scared at the very last minute. And then we're going to maximize our threshold braking at the end of this straightaway so that when we start going down the hill, we're already slowed down. We don't want to still be doing a lot of braking as we dive down this steep hill, but we want to make sure we stay at full throttle. I can hear you, again, gradually lifting off the gas and slowly moving to the brake. Faster feet. Yeah, you go way deeper than that. Don't start 50 more feet before you start braking, okay? And then your car will definitely slow down. You're already at 67. We want to be still at 80 at this point. So now this is good. This looks like a very good rhythmic section. You probably could hit the apex a little later, I think. And whenever you see, this is kind of interesting. Whenever you see a section like this, you're trying to get, you're thinking about, let me draw this. You're trying to think about, how do I get my car tracking out in a straight line on the exit of this section, because we have a straightaway. So our main goal is, we might be a little slower on this first corner, but we want to maximize our exit on the second corner because the straightaway is long. So this first corner is more important to set up the second than it is to get the first corner perfect. So that means it's a slalom. And in any slalom, you backside the first cone. What does backsiding the cone mean? It means you do a later apex on the first cone than the second, which means we don't want you where you are all the way over to the right. We want you 5 feet more to the left. We want you to do a later apex. We want you to be angled more like this. So wait longer before you turn in sharper. Get around 2/3 or more of this first corner when you hit the apex at the correct orientation, more of an angle. And then you'll really set up your exit for corner number 2. So it's really key whenever you see a sequence like that. So we drifted out a little bit to the left. I'd rather have you be 2 more feet to the right to set up our exit for this next corner, which again goes uphill. So we're going to gain traction. We want to rotate more on the entry, get to throttle. Right here, we should be rotated more. More. You should be aimed that way. You're aimed this way. So you can't get to gas right now. If you get to throttle, you're going to fly off the track. Rotate the car more, get your turning done, and then start feeding in the throttle as you go up this hill, and you'll already be pointed in the right direction. So you have to wait forever. Oh, and then you didn't track out at all. So we want you, obviously, you want to be all the way out here at full throttle. So that corner is blind. I can see why it's difficult. Just work on all the things we've been talking about, and then you can track out more as you get to full throttle. And then you get to carry that down this nice long straightaway. All right. So this is a nasty hairpin coming up. We want to be all the way left. That's good. You got over to the exact spot you want to be. Now, before I even look at this corner, tell me, think in your mind, what are we going to want to do? Tight hairpin. After everything I've said about where do you basically want to be looking, 2/3 of the way through the corner is the apex. I'm guessing that's somewhere about like right here. So in order to get to that apex oriented in the proper direction, pointed down the straightaway, you're going to have to do a super late apex, which means don't cheat the car, don't turn in early, wait, be patient, brake late, brake deep, brake hard, trail brake a lot. Get that thing rotated as much as you can on the first part of the corner so you can get to throttle sooner. Yeah, pretty good. I would just say turn in 2 or 3 feet later than you did. Turn in 20 degrees sharper than you did. And then your car will be oriented more this way instead of right now you're pointed this way. So you're going to have to wait a long time before you get to gas. Yeah, see, so we'd already be right now full throttle. You're at 35 miles per hour. If you had done that late apex, we'd start feeding it. We'd be at 80% throttle, coming to 100, unwinding our hands. And we have so much track width here. They really did a good job. This thing is forever wide. Get all the way out there under full throttle and ride that whole straightaway. I'm going to wait till this whole section. Very tricky section. All right. Key with this is a section with a right, a left, a right, a left. It's a slalom. The rule is anytime we enter a slalom, we backside the first cone, meaning late apex on the first corner, later than normal, because the only thing that matters is we want to set up how straight can we make the remainder of the section so we can go full throttle. As we get right to about here, we can carry full throttle from that point all the way until the second to the last corner. If we don't do a good job of rotating a lot on this first corner, we're screwed because we got to slow down for the next corner and the one after that. It just puts us behind the game. So over exaggerate, rotating a little bit more on the entry to this first corner, getting all the way over to the right and on the right red candy stripe. And on your exit of this first corner, we want you to kind of stay out here. Okay? And brake. And when we brake here in a straight line, then we can rotate the car a lot and get it pointed that way so that we can go full throttle up that hill over the crest. And then the rest of the section is pretty much a straightaway after that. So again, if I could summarize that in a different way, give up this first corner to set up the next 2 corners and turn them into a straightaway. That's good. We could turn in now 5 feet later and a little bit sharper. And if you did that, you'd be right there. You want to be here, headed up there. And if you were oriented that direction, a little bit more to the left, maybe even like this, then you can go full throttle from this point on all the way over the hill. And then the next corner you can just completely ignore because it's a straightaway. But now we're too far to the right. We're still turning. We're not able to get to full throttle yet. And now we're pinched off to the right a little bit too much, which means we can't quite get to full throttle. And I also want you to see there's a cone there. Why did they put that cone there? Because the last time we came here and did our racing, that's my line. We were going over the dirt because we were just straightening this corner out. So they put the cone up so people don't run over and straighten this corner because it's basically a straightaway. So you want to get as close to the cone as you can, all over this relatively flat curb, and you want to be full throttle because you can carry full throttle all the way until the second to the last corner. So you can work up to that. But now we're having to wait a little bit because we're still turning the wheel too much. We'd rather have our hands straighter, and then we could carry a lot more speed through this section and the next corner. Yeah, so you could track out more to the left and carry more speed. And again, try to straighten this whole section out, make it into a straightaway. Okay, coming up to the second to last corner. That was great. That was great. Okay. So second to last corner is, it's a balls corner. See if you can go 73 instead of 70 and keep the car nice and balanced and flat. Turn your hands gradually. You're going to brake a little bit before the corner, but make your braking soft to medium, a little bit longer, softer braking. Keep the car as flat as you can as you turn in. Get a little bit closer to the right hand curb if you can. And see if you can carry 72, 73 through the corner and just creep up on it because it does carry a lot of speed and it's slightly banked to your favor as well. So you got down to 62. I think you can definitely work on a min speed of, say, 65, 66, and just continue building 1 mile per hour from there. Good track out. Good setup for the second to last corner. That's good. You're already positioning really well to stay all the way to the right. So we've already done this section in the beginning of the video. This line is much better than in the previous lap where you're really setting up for a strong exit onto the main straightaway. That's good. You could get 2 feet more to the left and run over that left curb. That'll get you to throttle 1/10 of a second sooner. But other than that, it's much, much better than the previous lap. Yeah, so much better throttle application too. I heard you gradually feeding in the throttle instead of an on-off switch, and you are getting pushed out to the red and white candy stripe. You can get pushed again all the way out to the blue, but work up on that, 1 or 2 miles per hour key thing is here, as you straighten your hands. We're going to be reducing steering input as we increase throttle input because there's an inverse relationship between our gas pedal and our steering wheel input. And that's a great lap. Let's watch the finish because your Garmin is triggering past the start finish line. I think this is a 2:38 lap. Great. So in summary, I think we've got a lot of things. I'm going to do a report card for after the session. And I really believe If you apply what we've talked about, you can definitely drop 2 more seconds relatively easily, and then we can continue to chip away at each corner 1/10 of a time. But I definitely see a 236 or a 235 in the realm of possibility without too many adjustments, and then we can continue.